In the skies above us, there are those who defy the limits of fear, those who hold their nerve when seconds decide fate. These are the pilots whose landings are not just routine, but legendary. This is dangerous landings, great pilots. From the muddy fields of World War I to the floating decks of modern aircraft carriers, pilots have faced one truth: what goes up must come down. And sometimes, coming down is the hardest part. In the heart of Hong Kong once stood one of the most feared runways in the world, Kai Tak Airport. With mountains on one side and skyscrapers on the other, pilots had to perform a precise 47-degree turn just seconds before touchdown. It wasn't just a test of skill. It was a test of nerves, one misjudgment. And a 747 could end up in Victoria Harbor. Every landing at Kai Tak was different. You had the winds, the heat, the turbulence from the buildings. But when you got it right, it felt like magic. On July 19, 1989, United Airlines Flight 232 was cruising at 37,000 feet when disaster struck. The tail engine exploded, severing all 3 hydraulic systems. The plane was suddenly uncontrollable. Captain Al Haynes and his crew were handed the impossible: land a DC-10 with no controls. They used nothing but engine thrust to steer. The landing was brutal. The fuselage broke apart. But against all odds, 184 people survived. Why? Because of pilot skill, teamwork, and raw courage. The AV 8B Harrier, a marvel of engineering, a nightmare to land, especially at sea. Marine pilots must balance throttle, yaw, pitch, and altitude in perfect harmony, while the ship rocks beneath them and crosswinds blast from the ocean. You're not flying a jet, you're balancing it, like standing on a beach ball during an earthquake. And still they do it day and night, in war zones, in storms, because that's the job. Imagine flying a Boeing 767 with no fuel. That's exactly what happened in 1983, when metric conversion error left Air Canada Flight 143 gliding toward disaster. Captain Bob Pearson, an experienced glider pilot, knew one thing: without engines, there's only one shot at landing. He aimed for a closed airbase in Gimli, Manitoba, being used at that very moment for a drag race. The landing gear collapsed. The nose scraped along the tarmac. But no one died. They called it the Gimli glider. In the middle of the Pacific, an F/A-18 Hornet returns to its carrier. But a typhoon has turned the sea into chaos. Visibility is near zero. Landing on a carrier is hard enough. Doing it in a storm is like threading a needle in a blender. Your heart's pounding, your fuel is low, and your only option is that postage stamp moving through the dark. That's when you pray your training kicks in. There's the airstrip at Lukla, carved into the Himalayas, where one mistake sends you into a cliffside. The pilots here fly old turboprops through unpredictable mountain weather, landing on a strip just 500 meters long, with a wall at one end and a drop at the other. You don't get a second chance. Or consider the story of U.S. Airways Flight 1549. Moments after takeoff, both engines fail. Captain Chesley Sullenberger knows there's no chance of making it to an airport. In seconds, he makes a decision: land in the Hudson River. It's cold, it's dangerous, but he glides the Airbus down, touches the water like a feather, and everyone survives. They call it the Miracle on the Hudson. Tenerife, 1977. The deadliest aviation disaster in history. 2 jumbo jets collide on the runway in thick fog. KLM Flight 4805 takes off without clearance and crashes into Pan AM 1736. 583 people lose their lives. The pilot's miscommunication and pressure from delays prove fatal. This tragedy reshaped air traffic control forever. Dallas, 1985. Delta Flight 191 approaches during a storm. Then wind shear. A violent burst of air slams the aircraft down. The pilots fight, but the plane crashes short of the runway. It was a storm, not pilot error. But the event led to huge advancements in weather detection systems. In the Cold War, Soviet pilots often had to land on icy, unlit runways in remote Arctic regions. No ground crew, no GPS, just instinct and old-school flying. They navigated using stars, radio beacons, and guts. Their machines were tough. Their minds tougher. These pilots land on ice, on water, in storms, on ships, in war zones. They don't just fly. They master the impossible. When lives hang in the balance, they don't flinch. They land. Respect the skill. Honor the courage. Never forget the moments that could have ended in tragedy, but didn't. This is what it means to be a great pilot.